Welcome to the Educational Laboratory of the Faculty of Agricultural Technology, Brawijaya University, Malang. This video will discuss the basic understanding of laboratory, occupational health and safety, and good and safe work behavior while in the laboratory for both practicum and research activities. Before working in the laboratory, ensure researchers are in good health. Next, we will discuss several things that must be considered when working in the laboratory to avoid the risk of work accidents. The first is to use the required PPE, or personal protective equipment, correctly, which are: Number 1. Lab coat. A lab coat with long sleeves is required. If you have a short-sleeved lab coat, always wear a long-sleeved shirt to protect your hands from hazardous materials. The lab coat must be neatly buttoned from top to bottom. For students wearing a hijab, neatly tuck the hijab inside the lab coat. For those who do not wear a hijab, hair must be neatly tied. Do not use the lab coat to clean up chemical spills or other materials. Immediately wash the lab coat if it is exposed to hazardous materials while working in the lab. Number 2. Protective mask. Use a mask correctly in the designated place, especially when working with materials that can harm the respiratory system. Researchers with respiratory problems must always use a mask. If using chemicals with a strong odor, a special mask and working in a fume hood are required. Number 3. Closed shoes. This means shoes must cover the feet from the front to the back. It is not allowed to use slip-on shoes or sandals while working in the lab. Number 4. Gloves. For microbiology work and those using chemicals, nitrile gloves are recommended. Use gloves that fit the size of your hands. Always use new gloves when you start working in the lab and discard them immediately after you finish working. Number 5. Goggles or lab glasses. This PPE is used when working with hazardous chemicals, materials that easily splash, or when there is a risk of eye exposure. The second thing to pay attention to in the lab is to follow all the instructions in the lab, which are: do not eat or drink or bring food and drinks into the lab, as there is a risk of contamination from the lab environment to the food and drinks. Do not joke or engage in excessive banter while working in the lab, as it can cause work accidents such as breaking glassware or spilling chemicals. Always pay attention to the hazard symbols posted in the lab area, such as high voltage signs, hot temperature signs, etc. Next is to know the location of first aid equipment, such as the first aid box, fire extinguisher, safety shower, eye wash, and emergency contact information. When in the laboratory, it is forbidden to work alone. Make sure a colleague can accompany you to anticipate unwanted accidents. If laboratory activities are only carried out by 2 people, it is recommended that both people be of the same gender to ensure mutual comfort and safety. Do not wear jewelry and accessories in the lab, such as necklaces, rings, bracelets, and excessive hijab accessories. First, this will cause chemicals to react with the metal, causing corrosion, discoloration, or even damage to the jewelry. Second, accessories can become traps for chemicals that can cause irritation or skin wounds. Third, some metals can conduct electricity, which is dangerous if they come into contact with certain chemicals. When disposing of waste, identify the type of waste to be disposed of, then put it in the waste container according to the label. The correct way to dispose of media and microorganism cultures so as not to contaminate the lab environment is: the media must first be decontaminated, put into a plastic container, tied tightly, and disposed of in the trash. Then, thoroughly wash the used glassware. Do not throw leftover media and cultures directly into the trash or the sink. And most importantly, always contact the lab technician when something happens that is beyond the researcher's control. Next, we will discuss how to provide first aid in the case of an accident while working in the laboratory for both practicum and research. If you inhale a chemical, the first thing to do is to immediately leave the lab and get fresh air outside. To neutralize the respiratory tract, you can drink plain fresh milk. If you inhale a chemical without proper handling, it can cause illnesses such as shortness of breath and impaired lung function. If you accidentally swallow a chemical, do not eat or drink anything immediately. Try to safely induce vomiting first. After vomiting, immediately drink water or milk, then seek medical help as soon as possible. If you get splashed with chemicals on your lab coat and skin, immediately rinse the area with running water for a while. Do not soak or just wipe it off. If there is a burning effect, immediately take ointment or bioplacenton from the first aid kit. If you are exposed to a large amount, use the safety shower in the lab. If you get splashed with chemicals in your eyes, immediately rinse your eyes with water or use the eye wash in the lab until the stinging sensation is gone. If you have a minor burn that does not blister, the first thing to do is to cool the burned area. Remove any accessories or anything from the burn area, set aside your clothes, apply ointment, and keep the wound dry. If there is a gas leak, immediately turn off any equipment connected to the gas. Open the lab windows, then report to the lab technician and leave the laboratory. Before touching the cable, make sure your hands are dry. If there is an electrical short circuit or sparks appear on the equipment cable, immediately turn off the equipment and report to the local lab technician. Do not unplug the equipment cable, do not leave without turning off the equipment, and do not turn off the main electrical panel in the lab. If there is a small fire due to a Bunsen burner, immediately take a cloth that has been soaked with water and slowly cover the flame. When working with a Bunsen burner, do not spray alcohol near it, as it will cause the fire to get bigger. When extinguishing a fire, we should not blow on the fire, fan it with paper or a book, or pour water directly on it. If there is broken glassware, either on the table or on the floor, do not clean or pick up the broken glass shards with bare hands. The correct step is to sweep the area around the shards, then wrap the pieces neatly and tightly so they do not endanger the cleaning staff, and then label them, and finally dispose of them in the trash. Lastly, what should be done after finishing work in the laboratory? The first is to clean the workbench, tidy up the clean tools, and store the materials that have been used in their proper place. Then, remove the gloves by pulling them away from your hand so that the inside becomes the outside. Then immediately throw the gloves into the inorganic waste bin. Wash your hands with soap and running water. Take off your lab coat and clean your hands with the hand sanitizer at the lab exit. This concludes the short video on good and correct behavior when working in the laboratory, as well as prevention and handling of accidents. Thank you for watching this video. We hope it is useful. And as a reminder, occupational health and safety is our top priority.